Our last debate of the session today and this year will be discussing the topic, "The pen is mightier than the sword." Talia will be representing the affirmative position, and Koa will be representing the negative position. Okay. Are you ready to begin your opening statement? Yes. You may begin.
I believe the pen is mightier than the sword. The power of your word is greater than the power of a knife. Once words are said and things are sent, there is no getting them back. Trying to fix it by apologizing, saying you're sorry, does not help. Over time, you might forgive, but will you forget? My first main point is, the pen ends conflict, the sword starts. My first example to support this is in World War I. In World War I, Germany used violence to attempt and take over the Allies without reaching their goal. When the war was ended, the Treaty of Versailles ensured the safety of the Allied forces in the future. My opponent may say that the Allies did use violence to end the war. While it is true they used violence, this is not why they won and stopped the war. They stopped the war with the written Treaty of Versailles. My second example is rule following in everyday life. If you want someone to follow a rule, you can either physically force them to follow the rule, or you can write the rules down and show them. If rules are enforced through violence, there is more of a chance the group will fight back. Also, when a rule is written down in black and white, you can punish a breaking of rules more easily. If the rules are not written down, the person convicted can simply say they did not know it was a rule. Written combat leaves more of a lasting impact than physical combat. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote speeches to influence millions of people. His methods were peaceful and effective. If Martin Luther King Jr. would have employed violence on the opposing side instead of reaching out to people on his own side to speak out, the Civil Rights Act might not have begun or resulted in any change. Statistics show that 90% of students grades 4 through 8 have said they were a victim of bullying, and of that 90%, 77% is verbal. People may think words don't hurt, but they do. If someone were to punch you and left your arm bruised, in the long run, it would not hurt as much as if someone hurt you on some sort of social media. Yehuda Berg said, "Words are singularly the most powerful force available to humanity. We can choose to use this force constructively, with words of encouragement, or destructively, using words of despair. Words have energy and power, with the ability to help, to heal, to hinder, to hurt, to harm, to humiliate, and to humble." This statement is true, and that on social media, the writing stays there forever, and the cuts the words create are too deep to heal. Martin Luther wrote a list of complaints against the Catholic Church and posted it on the church. When people saw it, they were influenced by what it said, and they agreed. The church could not fight back because they would not want to lose the people that still held strong to them. If Martin Luther would have brought together a group of people to attack the church, the results would have been completely different. Since the Catholic Church would have been attacked, it would only make sense for them to fight back, not giving the same results to Martin Luther. Still today, this fateful act has an impact. Many people practice the different branches that would not have been created without Martin Luther's nonviolent movement. In the examples above, all information has been presented that the pen is indeed mightier than the sword. Thank you. I now stand ready for cross-examination.
Are you ready to
Do I need to lower this or? Do I need to lower this or?
You can. It's fine. It's okay. You can do what you want. All right. Are you ready to begin your cross-examination?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You may begin.
Do you agree that there have been times when writing has not brought about action or had a forceful presence?
Yes, but in empty lies and promises.
Can you think of any times where military force has not had a forceful presence or brought action?
No.
You clearly agree the sword is mightier than the pen, as military force brings more action and has more of a presence.
Yes, but the pen brings more of a force, and it brings action that has been stronger and it's more influential than the sword is.
Moving on, if America's safety was threatened, would you feel safe being protected by many men and women using military force?
No.
You would not feel safe like that. How would you have been feeling more safe if you were protected by pens and words and writing?
Yes, if the U.S. and United Nations were to make a negotiation with people, like with groups like ISIS that stated that they would not attack as long as there was some sort of compromise between the two, then I would feel safe in that they would not attack.
In the case of conflict and there is no other choice, if you are being attacked, would you rather be defended by words in writing or military force?
At that exact moment, military force, but military force in the long run, say like 5 years in the future, military force, if they were acting like in a war and they fighting the army and they still lost, if those people had used words and came to a compromise and agreement with the people they were fighting, there would have to be an attack.
Do you agree that military force can gain people and countries land and power?
We'll now move on to the opening statement for the negative position. Are you ready to begin?
Yes.
All right, you may begin.
My topic is the pen is mightier than the sword, but I am negative, so I believe that the sword is mightier than the pen, or military force is more powerful and effective than writing. This is clearly shown with the examples of Genghis Khan and the Mongols, the Spanish conquistadors Hernan Cortez and Francisco Pizarro, World War I, and imperialism in Africa. My first main point is that military force gains territory and power, as can be seen with Genghis Khan and the Spanish conquistadors. First, Genghis Khan rose to power in the Mongol Empire and led them with military force in one of the most effective conquests of all time. He used this strong and powerful military force to gain them the most vast adjoining land of any empire in history, totaling to 11 to 12 million square miles, which caused the Mongols to become one of the most powerful civilizations in Asia. Second, the Spanish conquistadors who conquered the Aztecs and the Inca, Hernan Cortez and Francisco Pizarro, needed to use military force in order to accomplish their goals. They both wanted to control the land of the other civilizations in order to gain their valuables and goods, spread the influence of Christianity, and gain more land for their kingdom. They could not have had those civilizations sign a treaty or a pact giving over their territory, as they wouldn't want to do that, and they also speak different languages. Cortez and Pizarro had to use their military force to carry out their goals and gain the territory from the other civilizations. My second main point is that words do not have the same forceful presence and meaning as military force. First, if leaders or delegates for a country sign a peace treaty or non-aggression treaty in a war, they are not physically bound to it and can easily do the opposite of what they write with their actions. Words cannot prevent people from doing things, but military force can. For example, in World War I, when Germany wanted to weaken Great Britain, they had to use their military force and create a blockade of U-boats around Great Britain to prevent them from getting their supplies. When the United States entered the war, they had to overcome this barrier by using military force to transport their supplies. Second, the rise of imperialism and nationalism, which led to the scramble for Africa, shows how words do not always have true meaning and presence while military force does. Imperialism and nationalism led to the European countries in the 1800s competing with each other to control the most land with the best resources. They had a conference in Berlin where they negotiated and gave different countries different territories, and while the words gave the countries the rights to take over different lands, they started to use their military force to gain physical control. Clearly, the sword is mightier than the pen. This is evident in my first main point: military force gains territory and power. It is shown through what Communist China leader Mao Zedong once said: political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. This quote is clearly stating that military force gains power, as Genghis Khan and Spanish conquistadors have shown. This is also shown through World War I and imperialism in Africa, with military force used to take over the enemy where written words have no power. Thank you. I now stand ready for cross-examination.
Are you ready to begin cross-examination? Yes. You may begin.
Do you believe education is necessary for a good future?
Yes.
When you are educated, you write papers and present projects, correct?
In most forms of education, that is true.
And if you believe that education is important to your future, then wouldn't that mean writing and learning peacefully is powerful?
It is true that it is an important skill to learn how to read and write to communicate, but military force can be used in order to achieve goals in many situations other than writing.
Okay, moving on. You said the Mongols used their military force to take over large, vast spaces in Asia?
True.
And after this happened, how long were the Mongols in large power?
The Mongols stayed in power for a long time until after Genghis Khan's death, when his sons took over the power. They did not use the military power effectively enough to keep it holding. So military force can be used to keep a country together if it is used correctly. But in that case, it was not, and it began to fall apart.
Yes, so you're saying that once you have what you want, so like in this case, there was a huge space of land. When someone who's in power cannot be in power anymore, and someone else comes in to, I guess, take over that power, they may not have what it takes like the other person have, and the military force can be used in ways that are completely ineffective, as you said.
Not that military force can be used. It can be used if it's not used effectively, then it cannot. It's possible for it to fall apart.
You said yourself that that he did not use the military force effectively.
His sons did not use it effectively enough to keep it together, but writing was in no form used. It fell apart due to other military force that was stronger.
Okay, moving on.
Time.
Okay.
All right, you both will have 1 minute to make preparations for your final closing arguments. Okay, time begins now. Time. We will begin with the closing argument from the affirmative position. Are you ready to begin?
Yes.
You may begin.
I still stand strong with the statement that the pen is mightier than the sword. Shakespeare's quote, "Fighting fire with fire," is a representation of what you're doing while trying to end violence with more violence. Throwing a ball of fire into fire will only make it larger, just like trying to end conflict with violence. On the other hand, words can lead to compromise. This compromise can result in a long-term solution, which is a much greater result than what the sword can achieve. My opponent said that military force is what stops people from doing bad things. As he also said, the son of Genghis Khan did not use the military power effectively, and this shows that military power is not always effective in what it's trying to do. Pen holds more power than the sword does. Conversations can spark new ideas and end old conflicts. Words have the ability to throw you to the ground, and they also have the ability to pick you up again. Words can make you or they can break you. Thank you.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
You may begin.
It is clear that the sword is mightier than the pen. This is quite evident when shown through Genghis Khan and the Mongols taking over the majority of Asia, and with the Spanish conquistadors taking over American civilizations. They both had to use their military force to gain land and power for their countries and empires. Also, words do not have a truly tangible or physical presence and cannot prevent military actions. While words do not have that tangible presence, military force does and can prevent written actions from affecting civilizations and people. While my opponent stated that the Treaty of Versailles resolved the conflict in World War I, the stronger military force was used to decide the conflict, and the treaty was used to try to prevent Germany from rising to power again. The written power did not prevent Germany from rising to power again, and another world war started a few years later. Clearly, military power is more effective and powerful than writing. As the chairman of Communist China, Mao Zedong, has once said, political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. This quote again clearly shows how power is gained through military force and cannot be gained through writing. Thank you.
If you all would, go ahead and drop your papers off at the back of the room.